Hello everyone for today's session. So we have with us Mr. Vaibhav Chakoria. So I'll give a brief background about you. So
Yeah.
Mr. Vaibhav Chakoria is currently working as Associate Director with Consulting and Valuation Advisory Services of CBRE South Asia Private Limited. He's the regional head for Andhra Pradesh and Telangana region, currently based out of Hyderabad. With a strong background in finance, he has been a part of a wide variety of consulting and valuation assignments, ranging from appraisal of commercial, residential properties, retail malls, township developments, hospitality assets, IT parks, special economic zones, institution developments, etc. He has been involved in providing advisory services across North, South, and Central India to a wide spectrum of clients, including investment banks, private equity firms, developers, corporate houses, and landowners. Mr. Vaibhav joined CBRE in 2008. Over the past 11 years in CBRE, he has been a part of a wide variety of assignments and has gained an in-depth understanding of the Indian real estate market. We welcome you, sir. We can start with the session.
Thank you, Sairika. Thank you for your kind words.
Lovely.
So, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for inviting me for this webinar. And I'm sure all of you would be intrigued about how valuations are done. And typically in real estate, we focus a lot on the assets rather than at an equity share level. And as a real estate valuer, we get to know about various real estate asset classes, how do they functions, what is their risk return profile, and the nature of each of the micro market, because real estate is always a very localized business, and one city will differ from the other cities. Within a city, one region or one micro market will vary from different micro market. So yes, it's a very interesting subject. And over the last few years, since time have been with CBRE, we have seen various real estate cycles. So it's a very interesting subject to know how real estate valuations work and what are the different aspects which one needs to be aware of while doing the real estate valuations. And somebody who is evaluating a career in real estate sector as a valuer, he will get exposed to a lot of market vagaries, market challenges, and understanding of various kind of real estate asset classes, various aspects in which goes into valuation, which is a very intrigue in terms of learning process. When we say real estate is nothing but comprising of land and building, and in that context, virtually everything which you see around is a real estate. But more specifically, when we get into real estate valuations, there is various asset classes which we value. For example, hotels and leisure resorts. You would have visited a lot of hotels, a lot of resorts, while on vacation and all. So, we value those kind of assets. Special economic zones, whether it's a industrial park or a logistic warehousing park. Special use assets like clubhouses, golf course, hospitals, petrol stations, amusement parks, educational institutes, etc. So, anything which is an income generating, which has a potential to generate some income out of it, and which it can be put to various usages, comprise of real estate asset classes. Residential townships, we would have seen a lot of townships which are getting launched in Hyderabad and elsewhere also. Commercial office spaces, retail mall, a lot of under construction sites which are there, which are proposed for various usages, whether it's retail, hospitality, or residential. And then infrastructure related. This is a very interesting aspect in real estate, where apart from the core operations, if you've seen, there's a lot of land which is provided as part of this infrastructure related development. For example, at GMR Airport, you would have seen a lot of land parcels which are there, which are being proposed for various usages. So these are the assets which we typically value. And this is not limited to these things only. There can be agricultural land parcels, there can be independent house, independent villa, apartment. So all these kind of assets are typically part of real estate valuations. and anything and everything which generates income can be valued. While these assets can be valued, at what stage we can value? We can value at vacant land or a vacant stage level. We can value at an under construction stage, and we can value at an operational level also. So at any given point of time, whatever is the status of the asset, a valuation can be done for that aspect. Moving on, in terms of valuation requirements, why do we need to go through these valuations? What is the purpose of this valuation to be done? So just to give you a flavor that, all these asset classes which generates income are required to be valued from a compliance perspective, which is nothing related to IPOs, REITs. You would have heard about Embassy REIT platform, where there was a large commercial asset portfolio was listed on stock exchange last year. There are public circulars in terms of government regulations which requires to do the valuations. Whenever we do mergers and acquisitions on behalf of clients, so whenever they are acquiring any asset, whether it's an industrial asset, whether it's a logistics park or anything, so they require the valuations for these M&A purposes. Then mortgage and financing. So any housing finance company, if you apply for a loan, they will get a valuation done. So that is something, nothing but mortgage financing. Then you would have heard a lot of NPA assets in the banking sector, in the NBFC sector. So when these assets gets distressed and when the banks look to divest these assets or sell these assets, they require the valuations of these assets. We do a lot of feasibility studies, financial analysis for various land parcels where client would like to understand what is the intrinsic value of that property. So in that case, we do the valuation of these projects. Then you would see a lot of projects which are under construction. This is nothing but development project. We value those projects as part of our process. Then annual portfolio valuation. There are a lot of real estate funds who invest in real estate asset as part of like a typical mutual fund. So there is something called real estate funds, which raises money from HNIs and deploy money in various projects. They require these valuations to be done on an annual basis to report to their shareholders. Similarly, there are listed companies like Prestige, Shobha, RMZ, and other companies which are non-listed also, DLF. They require valuations to do the impairment testing. I'm sure you would have heard about this term impairment testing in your classes. They require to know whether the assets, what has been reflected in their books of accounts, whether it is showing the true value or not. Sometimes what happens, a corporate would have acquired an asset 5 years back, and that asset will continue to be reflected in their books at that acquisition value, but now the asset would have increased by 2x or 3x or maybe reduced by 50% because of the market conditions. So they would require to get the impairment testing for these assets. So they would require the evaluations to be done. Whenever any corporate or any developer applies for a loan, so that is something called project funding for that particular project. So they require valuations for those project funding cases. And then as an individual or as a corporate, they require valuation estimation for various asset purchase or disposition whenever they're looking to sell or purchase. So they require valuation. So these are the various purposes for which a typical valuation is required. And for anyone at any given point of time, there may be some of the other reasons to get a valuation done. But these are primarily the main reasons why these valuations are typically required.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Akshama, and my question is: as construction has stopped for unpredictable time because of low money circulation and social distancing, so how would it affect the worth of the real estate which are under construction post COVID-19 outbreak? After COVID-19 outbreak, how would it affect the valuation of the real estate?
Yeah, so very relevant question, Akshama. As a valuer, what we take into account is what are the current challenges now for a project to get complete. So as I said that the assumptions will be how much time it will take now to complete the project, whether it will be, so for example, if a pre-COVID scenario was 3 years to complete a project, we need to see whether 3 year is the right time frame or not, or whether it will take 3.5 years to complete the project, because for almost 1 quarter there was no construction activity. So that will have an impact on development timelines. Similarly, if the demand supply situation changes, what is the impact on the pricing? So whether the pricing will remain same or whether the pricing has witnessed correction in the market. So we need to take into account those parameters. Third, whether the absorption time frame which we used to consider pre-COVID, let's say we used to estimate 100,000 square feet of annual demand. Now, whether that demand is still same or whether it will decrease, to what extent it will decrease. So these are the parameters which will be taken into account while estimating the cash flows from those projects, and definitely there will be a negative impact considering the current scenario. Hi, Ravi.
Yeah, hello sir. Good afternoon. So my question is related to stamp duty valuation. So generally in capital gains, while calculating net sale value, we compare assessing value and stamp duty value. So why is there a difference between both of them? I mean, why can't we take the stamp duty value or assessing value as the net sale value? Why should we consider both of them and take a list of them?
See, stamp duty value, or rather stamp duty is calculated on the guideline values which is prescribed by the government authorities. And this is a way to generate revenue for the state. While the guideline value which are typically established by the government authorities is more on a linear fashion. They will not see changes in the value of increase or decrease every year. While in reality, a particular location may have a variation in the land values or in the built-up values during a year or during a 2-year or 3-year time frame. So what used to happen that earlier, the collector or the revenue officer will survey the area, and basis that they will fix the value once in a year. But in the market, there will always be variations, and typically those guideline values are typically lower than the market value. More so specifically in case of agricultural land parcels, where the market value may be 10x or 20x of the guideline value. So hence the difference is there. But now over the last few years, that difference between the guideline value and the market value has considerably reduced in a lot of areas where the government is more proactive and wants to ensure that the guideline value is the reflective of the market value. So case in point, Noida, Greater Noida locations, those are very much, reflects the market value. And in some cases, the guideline value is higher than the prevailing market value because of the recessionary trend. While in case of built-up apartments, whatever is the actual value at which you transact becomes your, stamp duty value. So whatever you represent as the contractual value becomes the value for the stamp duty calculation purposes. So it's just about anomaly which exists because different state governments have, or different city has different ways of assessing the value.
I have to say that this is a really eye-opener for people who are having many doubts on how the real estate sector will grow or move forward post this COVID situation, or based on after demonetization, or at various points of time. There were some or the other issues which were going on and people were having doubts. And so I think this is really a what we can call it as is very nice session on how exactly this real estate valuation works on. Thank you very much for giving your time on a Sunday, very, very precious time.